I'm Kevin Coleman with the Assitant Post, and I am with an assistant attorney.
So I am a law director office assistant. That's my official title. My name's Hannah Bivens. I basically focus on the civil side of the law director's office and help with legislation and ordinance drafting and any other law requests and civil issues that would come up.
Okay. And I had spoken with you and Anna. Does
Yes.
she prefer Anna or Anna?
Anna.
Anna. All
Yes.
right. Good to know. I had spoken to you just before New Year's.
I believe that's when we were at council, yeah.
Yeah. And so I wanted to be able to get a better feel for both the cannabis legislation that was passed and the anti-camping legislation that is still in committee.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move on to the current issue.
Yep.
Which is, I know it best as anti-camping ordinance. Is that what your office calls it?
It's just a prohibited camping ordinance. So it's a prohibited camping, and the way that that's defined is prohibited camping within a public site. And that's defined as, public sidewalks, streets, alleyways, or public property, which includes public parks.
So this would not impact private property?
No.
Okay. Now, I saw part of the discussion on this that the police requested a little more police power, that they had approached a homeless camp. Look, we've got these ordinances. We have these resources that can help you. And then they said they came back and it was more different people had come in and they wanted a little more power, I think, to try to clean it up.
I don't believe it was a request to give them more power.
Or maybe clarify.
It was just a clarification on what they could do if they weren't getting the results they needed by giving resources and trying to help the people if there was a need to try to remove them because of some other issue or concern. So the way that the tool that they had at that time was to go out, talk to the people that were there, and I think they spoke to this very well at the first committee meeting that was had, guide them to some resources, but the only legislative tool or I don't want to call it criminal, but the only citationable tool they had was criminal trespass. And so what we tried to do when they reached out to us about posting additional signage and what other options they had was to try to create something that was less aggressive. Under the current statute and the current law, if these folks get cited with criminal trespass, it's an M4. It can come with 30 days of jail time plus penalties.
And
the way this
misdemeanor?
One is, yes, that's a misdemeanor, level 4 misdemeanor. The way this is structured is it's just a minor misdemeanor. There's no jail time associated with it. The only time you get up to an M4 is if there are multiple reoccurrences of violations. But there's also safety guards built into this legislation to incorporate what police were already doing to assure that we are trying to give these people resources and help to get them out before they're getting a citation.
So that's good. This isn't the police wanting more power and in more penalties. It's a clarification and actually allowing a lower level of police power.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's why it's still in committee, because what it was done is presented to the committee as a proposal so that we can have the discussions we've been having with the community groups in the area on how can we make this better, what can we do to make it a collaborative effort. So that we're giving resources, but we're still giving the police some authority when necessary to be able to not clear things out, but to be able to move people out.
I know Lisa Bennett is the chair of this
Yes.
committee, and I think she was frustrated that she didn't quite understand all the ramifications of the cannabis, and so she wanted to do a much stronger job with this.
Mm-hmm.
And you are also working on, this is also a focus for you?
Yes, this is legislation I helped work on.
Okay, so you're pretty much the expert on the legal side.
I guess, yes. I guess you could say that.
Okay. Do you know how discussions are going in council, or do you just give them the legal framework?
So I gave them the initial draft, and then I was at the initial committee meeting. And I believe they've had one more, is that correct, committee meeting since then? And I think Jason Miller was at that one. But I was sick. So and then based upon what's happened in the committee meeting, we're kind of working on some modifications, and that's going to come up at the review session that they hope to have in the near future.
Yeah, Kevin Shoemaker promised one.
Yep.
Like maybe next week, I think. Or
And Teresa and
next few
I'm
weeks.
not sure when it's going to be, but I know.
I don't think it's been announced yet.
No, I don't think it's been announced, but I know it's supposed to come up in the near future. And it's my understanding maybe at a little larger location to accommodate.
Yeah. There's been a lot of pushback by those who work for the homeless.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think all of that is justified, or again, is that not quite your side of the equation?
I mean, I see a lot of the emails. The committee meeting I was at, I didn't feel there was as much pushback at the committee meeting, but it was more a dialogue and a collaborative effort to try to come up with something that was beneficial for both sides, both those concerned and working with the homeless camps. And we want to make sure this is not directed at homeless. This is for any type of camping in public areas, okay? But the people that showed up and were there for the homeless camps, and I've read some of the emails and complaints that we've received, and it's being taken into consideration as far as the committee giving us more directive on what they want to see modified and changed.
Do you think there's a similar amount of misunderstanding as there was with the cannabis? People thought one thing was being regulated, but it wasn't, and
I don't really know how to answer that. I don't think that there's a misunderstanding, but I don't think it is as harsh of a criminalization of the issue as what we're seeing in some of the responsive emails we're getting.
okay. Well, this is going through the not administrative process, but legislative process.
Yes.
So it sounds like it's getting a lot of airing out, and a lot of
Mhm.
people are being allowed to talk about it.
And that was the hope and the goal from the very beginning. We didn't want to just give something and throw it. We wanted to make it a true collaborative effort to make sure that everybody's opinions were heard and taken into consideration.
So are you still a part of this process, or did you just hand your
No, I'm
homework
still
in?
involved. No, I'm still involved. So, like I said, there's been some requests for modifications made by the committee. Those came up to the law director's office for my review. And then once those get incorporated in, then we'll send it back down to the committee for this review session to see if there's any additional changes that need to be made and how they want to proceed.
And that's the usual process of the law director's office with council legislation.
Yes.
So you take care of the legal details and the framework, and they air it out and
Yep.
vote on it.
Yep. Or send it back if they feel they need changes made and make sure that there's no legalities with what they want to try to accomplish.
And that's how it usually works, a back and
A
forth
back
until
and
it's
forth
passed.
between the between the committees and the law director's office.
One last question. Constitutional rights.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with those and make sure that you are observing those?
Yeah. So the reason this all came about, there used to be some Supreme Court directive on prohibiting this type of legislation, but there was a
Ohio or U.S.?
U.S. And then there was a decision over the summer that kind of reversed that. And so what we are trying to do in here...
What are the names of the decisions?
So let me pull it up here. I have the decision pulled up. If I can find it, I've got way too many tabs pulled up here. It was Oregon's Pass v. Johnson, I believe. It was a case that originated out in Oregon. Grants Pass, Oregon v. Johnson. That
was
basically...
the original decision?
That was a decision from last summer of 24 that reopened the door for prohibited camping legislation. And so based upon that, and then we started looking at some of the other municipalities within the Ohio area to see what they were doing, because once that U.S. Supreme Court decision came down, you saw lots of other municipalities start looking at that legislation, some of them passing it. And one of the things we wanted to take into consideration is if you are moving people out and clearing out personal property, how do we give them the opportunity to get that personal property back. And so there are provisions built into the legislation to try to hold and maintain personal property so that these individuals can retrieve it and give them a time frame and a window so that we're not just going in and clearing things out.
Okay. And the process of making law can be very convoluted, but that is because the main intent is to protect the rights of the people.
Yeah, well, and it's
Case law and
yes,
constitutional
the rights of the
amendments and
people
everything.
it affects, and also the rights of the public in general, and how do we balance those out?
Rights of the public, including
Yeah.
protection from like a lot of trash or medicinal
Exactly.
waste and such.
Exactly.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
I don't think so. Do you have anything else to add, Teresa?
You did a great job.
Okay.
If someone would want to see a proposed ordinance or legislation, can you guys release that?
So I believe, at least with this particular legislation, at every committee meeting, the committee has made it available for anybody there that wants to review it.
But that's at the discretion of council?
And it's a working document. So it's not something that's actually been brought up to council as proposed legislation. If there was proposed legislation, anybody could request a copy and take a look at it.
How
But
would
the
you do
committees file public records request or ask the law director's office. It's usually released, and it's my understanding they're usually released with every agenda. So if there's proposed legislation on the agenda, full copies of the resolutions and ordinance are also a part of that, and they could be obtained from the clerk.
that? Okay.
Yep.
So contact the law director's office or the clerk
Or
of
the
council?
clerk of council. Yep.
All right.
But I do know that this particular legislation, at least it's my understanding at the committee meeting I was at, they had several copies available for anybody that wanted to take a copy to review it, where it was at that point in time.
All right. How can people learn more about the law director's office?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know. Teresa's the main contact here for right now.
And Teresa, can you introduce yourself?
I'm Teresa Wood, and I'm the office manager for the law director's office.
All right. I know there is a page on the city's website on the law director's office. Probably just an overview.
Yes.
So
I've had
maybe
different people call
Yeah.
over the years with miscellaneous questions, and I'm happy to speak to anybody that calls and try to fill them in. As far as my job goes, it seems like every day is different. But we also prosecute all the cases in the Chillicothe Municipal Court, so we're very busy with the preparation of files and cases for the court cases as well. So
And I think Anna has very frequently said that she needs more staff, more personnel to
There's a
deal with
lot
the
going
workload.
on here.
Even for the small town of Chillicothe.
right.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the municipal court is a big job. There's 2 courthouses up there, and so you've got to have law directors in there every day, and they can't cover both, so you've got to have a set in every courtroom every day, plus hearings going on downstairs sometimes with the magistrate.
And you have a new attorney who was at council Monday night? Is
Oh,
that yours
so he
or
was
yours?
replacing, yes, he was replacing another attorney who
Yes.
left for a different job.
Okay.
So he's not actually like an additional
Not a net gain.
prosecutor. Pardon me?
Not a net gain.
No.
No,
no.
He was replacing
Yeah, he
someone
was
who took a
replacing
different job.
someone else.
Okay. All right. Well, ladies, thank you very much.
Yes.
I hope that gives the public a better understanding of these 2 controversial issues.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll see the end results of your work in a few weeks.
I hope so.
I think so.
I would
maybe-
say so, yeah.
I think so.
I would say you would see. Hopefully they'll have some sort of review session scheduled in the near future.
Or at least one will see the results. The other one might get canceled out in a couple months.
You never know.
You never know.
Well, that was the design, right?
Yes, that's the goal, is no more than a year, and hopefully sooner than that, because we knew that the zoning process was in works and close to completion.
All right.
Alrighty.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin.